Okay, let's talk about a name you've probably heard before. Niccolo Machiavelli. His ideas on power are, well, they're still shaping our world more than 500 years later.
You really are.
So today we're going to break down his famous Guide for Rulers, a little book called The Prince. And we're going to get into not just what he said, but why his ideas were so radical for his time.
And to really get it, you have to picture his world. He was born in Florence in 1469, and Italy wasn't a country like we know it.
No, not at all.
It was this patchwork of competing city-states. They were all constantly at war, trying to grab territory. And Florence, his home city, was especially unstable. Rulers came and went constantly.
So it's that chaos that really explains his focus on, survival and stability.
Exactly. For him, politics wasn't a theory. It was about how to survive to rule another day.
But he had a front row seat for all of it. His dad was a lawyer, so Niccolo got this amazing classical education.
Right. But it wasn't just about reading old books. He was deep into the history of ancient Rome, studying how these massive empires rose and, more importantly, how they fell.
So he saw what was happening in Florence, with leaders getting kicked out left and right, and he could compare it to these huge historical patterns.
And he started seeing power not as a moral thing, good or bad, but just as a kind of machine, something you could study and, well, maybe even master.
And he wasn't just studying it from the outside, was he? He was a player in the game.
A major player. For more than a decade, he was a top official, a diplomat for the Florentine Republic. He was right in the middle of it.
So what did that actually involve?
It meant he was always traveling, visiting the courts of the most powerful people in Europe. We're talking kings, emperors, popes. He saw them up close, watched how they made decisions about war and peace.
So he wasn't just reading reports. He was in the room where it happened.
He was in the room. He was learning how power really worked, not in theory, but in high-stakes practice.
And he brought that practical mindset back home, right,
Mm.
to the military.
He did. He was put in charge of organizing Florence's army, and he had this really radical idea for the time.
Which was to stop using mercenaries.
Exactly. Mercenaries were hired soldiers, usually from other countries. The problem was they only fought for money.
So no loyalty.
Zero. If the battle got tough or if the enemy offered them more money, they just switch sides or run away. Machiavelli saw this as a huge weakness.
So his solution was what, a local army?
A citizen militia. His logic was simple but brilliant. Citizens will fight much harder to protect their own homes, their own families, than some guy who's just there for a paycheck.
And this gave him real-world proof of his theories. Loyalty isn't about love, it's about self-interest.
It's all about what you have to lose. And that political career, all that experience, it all came to a crashing halt in 1512.
Right, the Medici family came back.
They came back with the Spanish army and they overthrew the government Machiavelli worked for. And just like that, his world was turned upside down.
So it wasn't just that he lost his job?
He lost everything. He was arrested, interrogated, some even say tortured, and then he was exiled to his small family farm just outside the city.
So from the center of power to basically nowhere.
And it was there, in that forced retirement, that he wrote The Prince. He finished it around 1513.
And he wrote it as what, a job application?
Pretty much. He dedicated it to the new ruler, Lorenzo de' Medici. He was trying to show them, look, I understand power better than anyone. You need me.
That's fascinating. And that context explains why the book is so different.
Totally. Before Machiavelli, books for rulers were these idealistic guides about being a good Christian king, all about morality and virtue.
Like a fantasy guide to being perfect.
Exactly. Machiavelli just threw all of that out. He said he was interested in the effectual truth of the matter.
The effectual truth. What does that mean?
It means he focused on how leaders actually behave to survive, not how they should behave in some perfect world that doesn't exist. He grounded politics in reality.
So let's get into that reality. For Machiavelli, what is the number one goal for a ruler?
It's simple. Maintaining the stability and security of the state. That's it. Nothing else matters more.
And why was that so important to him?
Because he'd seen what happens when the state is weak. You get chaos, crime goes up, and you become an easy target for other countries to invade.
So a strong ruler keeps people safe.
Yes. For him, a ruler has a duty to be strong, to make sure laws are followed, because that's what protects the citizens.
But it's a full-time job, right? You can't ever relax.
Never. He said a ruler must always be thinking about war. Always. Even in peacetime.
You have to be preparing for the next conflict.
Because if you get lazy, if you get comfortable, that's when you lose. That's when your rivals take over. For Machiavelli, success is just one thing. how long you hold on to your territory and keep it safe.
And this all comes from a pretty dark view of people in general, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He had a very cynical view of human nature. He basically thought that most people are selfish, they're unreliable, and they are not grateful.
They're with you when things are good.
But they will turn on you the second things get difficult. So a ruler who relies on trust or kindness is just, well, setting himself up to fail.
Which brings us to probably his most famous question. Is it better to be loved or to be feared?
Right. And he says ideally you'd be both, but, that's hard to do.
So if you had to choose one,
He says it is much, much safer to be feared.
why? What's the logic there?
The logic is that love is fickle. People can stop loving you whenever it suits them, but fear is maintained by the threat of punishment.
And the ruler controls the punishment?
The ruler is always in control of fear. It's a tool you can rely on. Love isn't.
Okay, but this is where it gets tricky. He also says you must, at all costs, avoid being hated.
Yes, this is the critical warning. Fear is about control and discipline. Hatred is what causes people to rise up against you. Hatred leads to rebellions and assassinations.
There's a line.
There's a razor's edge. You need to be feared enough that people obey the law, but not so cruel that they actively want you gone. That balance is the real art of ruling.
So to walk that line, he uses this famous animal analogy. A ruler has to be two animals at once.
The lion and the fox. It's a perfect image.
Explain that. What's the lion part?
The lion is pure strength, force. You need to be a lion to scare off the wolves, your enemies. You need a strong military and the will to use it.
But just being strong isn't enough.
No, because a lion can walk right into a trap. That's why you also need to be the fox.
The fox is the clever one.
The fox is cunning. It can see the traps. It understands deception. It knows when to use tricks instead of force. If you're only a lion, you'll be outsmarted. If you're only a fox, you'll be crushed.
You have to do both.
You have to know when to be which. That's the key.
And this leads us to maybe the most controversial idea of all. The one that gets summarized as the ends justify the means.
Right. This is where he fully separates politics from personal morality.
So what does he actually argue?
He argues that sometimes a ruler has to do things that would be considered bad. Lying, breaking a promise, maybe even something cruel.
But only if it's for a good reason.
Only if the final result is protecting the state. So, for example, if telling a lie to an enemy diplomat prevents a bloody war that would kill thousands of your citizens,
Then you tell the lie.
then you tell the lie. Because your highest duty as a ruler isn't to your personal code of ethics, it's to the safety of the people you rule.
And speaking of safety, he always comes back to the military.
Always. For him, a strong state is built on two things: good laws and a good army. That's the foundation.
And again, no mercenaries.
Never rely on them or on troops from another country. They are disloyal and dangerous. Your army has to be your own people fighting for their own land.
He also talks a lot about something you can't control, which he calls fortune.
Yeah, you could think of it as luck or just events beyond your control. He compares it to a raging river.
A flood that can wash everything away.
Exactly. You can't stop the flood from coming. Bad luck is inevitable, but a smart ruler doesn't just sit and wait for it.
So what do?
During the good times, when the river is calm, they use their skill and foresight to build dams and dikes.
They prepare. They build up savings, they train their army, they make strong alliances. A weak ruler just hopes for good luck. A strong ruler prepares for bad luck.
So we've covered survival, fear, military strength. What about public image? How important is reputation?
It's everything. This is another key insight. He says a ruler must always appear to be virtuous.
Appear to be.
Yes. To the public, you need to seem religious, honest, merciful, and so on. Even if, behind the scenes, you sometimes have to act against those virtues to protect the state.
Why is the appearance so important?
Because most people only see the surface. They judge you on what they see. If the public believes you're a good person, they'll support you. And that support is a powerful tool. It's much easier to rule people who want to follow you.
It's all about perception.
The perception of virtue is power.
So when you put it all together, you get this playbook for ruthless leadership. It's no wonder the word Machiavellian means what it does today.
Right. We still use it to describe someone who is sneaky or manipulative, especially in politics or business. His legacy is really complicated.
He really is. Some people read him and see a teacher of evil, someone who gave tyrants a justification for their cruelty.
But there's another way to look at it.
Others see him as the first true political realist, someone who just had the courage to write down how power actually works in the real world. without any of the moral sugarcoating. He didn't invent this stuff. He just described it.
And that's really the question he leaves us with, isn't it? In any high-stakes environment, is it possible to win and keep things stable without, bending some of these rules he laid out? Understanding how power works, whether you agree with his methods or not, is pretty critical.
It's essential for understanding the world.
Good luck with your studies.